Hello everyone, and in today's video I just wanted to talk about the absolute state that the cinema world is in at the moment. So this is nothing new. Obviously, everyone has seen a bad movie in their life. Let's not mess around here. Everyone has gone to the cinemas at some point in their life and have thought, man, that was a terrible movie. Or you've been to the cinemas and you thought, I've seen it before, that sort of movie. Well, yeah, in today's video, we're just going to talk about pretty much why and a recent example of it, pretty much. So, if you haven't heard of this movie, which I wouldn't really surprise you about, the only reason I've heard about it is because I've seen it in adverts at the cinema. It's the Playmobil movie. Now, obviously, first thing that comes to your head is Lego Movie ripoff, and yeah, pretty much it is because when the Lego Movie debuted and it was a massive success, like the first Lego Movie, obviously the people behind the people who would eventually make this Playmobil movie thought, oh, that's quite easy to do. So obviously that's when they began making it, and then by the time the second Lego Movie came out, which, let's just be honest, I haven't seen either of them, but if we're just going off like box office records and statistics, didn't do very well and absolutely flopped. So by the time that movie came out, this one was still in production, and I guess it was just too far along the line for them to call it quits, because obviously they've put about 75 million into this, which is just insane. 75 million, imagine what else you could have done with that money. But anyway, let's just move on from that. So pretty much this article that I saw earlier is called Playmobil Movie Bombs at US Box Office in One of the Worst Movie Openings in Decades. And pretty much this article just goes over the fact that even though Playmobil, which is obviously aimed at children, the movie couldn't aim itself at children properly enough. Now, I know it's sort of a hard thing to get right, because you've got to also make a children's movie entertaining for adults. That's why there's a lot of like adult-themed jokes in there and like innuendos and stuff. But if this company can't make a movie that appeals just to children, what is the point of making the movie specifically about Playmobil? But anyway, this article just basically goes on to highlight that in the first week, it's only brought in $12 million like worldwide, which is insane for a movie. Like, that is astronomically low. Even very budget-oriented films can probably push that, because if you think about all the cinemas in whatever country you're in, and then times that by however many countries there are in the world, obviously there's going to be quite a few ticket sales, but it's just absolutely mental. And obviously this coincides with Frozen 2 coming out, which, to be honest, I haven't really heard much about. All I've heard is that it's almost at $1 billion, which is pretty insane, seeing as everyone I know hasn't really seen it, although no one I know watches Frozen unless they're doing it in secret, which would be a bit weird. But yeah, it's just absolutely insane. So why is this movie, or why are movies like this coming out in the cinemas and just absolutely failing? And personally, I think it's down to two reasons. I think, number one, it's motives. So what caused the movie to be made in the first place? So a lot of movies, when you think of how a movie is made, I personally think that most people believe it's someone waiting outside an office. They've got a bunch of scripts in their bag, and they walk in and they go into like an executive office and go, here you go, here you go, which one do you like that sort of thing. That's like a sort of typical scene I think most people have, unless I'm acting a bit mental. But in reality, it's not. It's most of the time it's either a producer who happens to want to push a certain narrative across in a certain movie. Obviously around Christmas, a lot of big movie companies want Christmas themed movies because obviously it bring in more money. But I think most of the time these days, motives are pushed from political ideas. Now, I'm not saying that the Playmobil movie is political, because it's the Playmobil movie. It's not going to have much politics in there really. But a lot of movies that have also failed recently, or a lot of movies that are coming out, are just so heavy on the political side. Now, I'm not talking about like left wing, right wing or stuff like that. I'm talking about like agendas, so pushing for certain rights for certain people, trying to take away certain rights for certain people. It's just one big mess. And A lot of people go to the cinemas to get away from real life. They want to go to cinemas and get away from the everyday issues that they hear on the news, they hear on Twitter, they hear on Snapchat, anything like that. And if you go to a cinema, the last thing you really want to see is some weird political agenda being pushed, unless you're watching some historical documentary or drama, but obviously that's a lot different than what we're talking about. And I guess the second reason you could argue is money making. Now, obviously, I have nothing against companies trying to make money, because that's the whole point of a company. But what I'm trying to say is, when a company, they get a movie idea in their head, obviously they try and think, how can we maximise profits? Let's try and get it to as many people as possible. Let's try and be inclusive as possible, or let's try and cause some controversy so we can get people to come along. I guess you could say a sort of an anti-movie towards that idea is the Joker movie, because that didn't try and cause the outrage that a lot of journalists had against it, but a lot of outrage was caused about it, and the Joker movie made a lot of money because of it. So that's sort of an example. But personally, I just think that with certain individuals trying to get as much money as possible, they do sacrifice pretty much the entire story of the movie. So if you can hear that, that's a plane going over my house, by the way. But yeah, so pretty much there's a lot of movie studios, movie producers, directors, even actors, I guess you could argue, that will just basically try and water themselves down to just fit in with absolutely everyone, and that just kills the story. Now, I guess we have to use the Playmobil movie as an example, because that's what I started this argument off with. Let's be honest, most people who are going into that movie are probably going to be children, and the adults who are going are just sort of being forced to go in because they have to pay. So obviously the story in the Playmobil / children's movie is not going to be the best. But if we take it to like the wider example, again, let's use the Joker, because that was a very big quote-unquote controversy. The story in that was very detailed. It, went on quite a bit. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way. I mean, it went on, and you got a lot of character development, you got a lot of key story ideas, key points, plot twists and stuff. I'm not going to spoil anything, by the way. But that movie is a very traditional movie where it has a lot of plot twists and it's very defined. Whereas when you get a movie like Captain Marvel, you can already tell what the story is going to be. It's like me and one of my friends have said, the only reason you have to go along and see it is because it's just another little tick to add to the MCU timeline if you follow the MCU. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to end this rant here because I feel like I'm just going to ramble about absolutely nothing from now on. So, yeah, hope you like this, and, yeah, hope to see you in the next video, wherever that is.